Hello, my name is Patrick Yantz, and I'm here to talk to you about the IceCube Air Modular Data Center. One of the first things we're going to talk about is the manufacturing process and all the parts and components that make up this unit. So the IceCube Air Modular Data Center units are manufactured by SGI and delivered on site in several pieces. And that's where we talk about modularity. That's truly modular. Each one of these designs, depending on the design, we have various sections that come together on site. So again, it's manufactured off site and delivered to the site in pieces, depending on the design, and or even if the customer has designed, if SGI has designed a unit specifically for a customer. And this is a case in point of that. This particular deployment is a custom design based on what SGI advertises as our large unit. This particular unit has 6 sections, and we're going to go through each one of those sections in this video, and you'll understand how they come together, and you'll understand ultimately how they become one complete IceCube Air unit. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the base frame. That's really the strength of the unit. So what you have here is a solid steel base frame, and you see that there's actual holes here for picking it up with a fork truck. We do not require a crane with these units. So when they arrive in these sections, you can take them off the truck. And again, each one of these sections is capable of being transported on a standard ISO trailer. So you'll see that each one of the sections, none of them actually go beyond 8 foot in width, so that they can be transported properly anywhere on the planet. Each one of these sections, again, sits on a solid steel base frame. And what sits on that base frame is an aluminum structure. And in between that aluminum structure are these aluminum panels. And inside the aluminum panels is the insulation. And we have several different types of insulation that we can provide to our customers, depending on where they're going to be deploying on the planet. What you see here is the solid aluminum structure mounted to the ISO base frame, which is again solid steel, making up one whole section. Each one of these sections arrives on the truck. It's taken off via fork truck, not a crane, which is a real plus to help ease the deployment of each one of the units. And they come together and they're bolted together on site by SGI. And you can see here there's some caulking here, and that's a little extra protection in the end. This is the end of a deployment here at this particular site. So as part of the manufacturing, one of the items I'm going to show you is a door panel. This door panel is the same as all panels that are throughout the unit. You see you have about 2.5 inches thickness of insulation, and I mentioned you can have several different types of insulation. You see you have the handle, of course, and you've got the aluminum siding on both sides. It's riveted together, and then most importantly, I want to show you that the doors come pre-manufactured for the support of magnetic locking systems and card readers. So here we are inside the IceCube Air unit. And we're going to talk about a couple of components that are key as far as the manufacturing piece goes, that is an end result of the manufacturing that we do here at SGI. Everything in this unit is aluminum, right? That helps with corrosion, etc., and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail when we talk about the cooling section. But you can see that everything has the same aluminum base frame, everything that's cut off at the factory, pre-designed and delivered as we discussed. You have a very robust floating floor. Right, so SGI offers this entire floor that you see inside this section is a floating floor that the racks actually sit on top of. And one of the things you notice that there's no racks in here, right? This is a completely open room that for this particular customer, by design, it was left that way. But we can actually deliver 4-post racks. We can deliver, or allow you to roll in your own racks and bolt them down wherever you'd like. There's really no limitations to this space. When we get into the details of the cooling, I'm talking about that now because of where I'm standing. It's important to understand that SGI does not limit our customers in what they can deploy inside of our units. This particular unit is completely empty, as I mentioned, and they could put 1 rack or 4 racks, but it was specifically designed for 8 high-performance computing racks. So this is the entrance of the IceCube Air Modular Data Center for the outside networking and really any kind of cabling that comes into the unit. And you can see that it passes straight into what would be considered standard cabling raceway that runs the length of the unit. So all of our units have this same type of network entrance. It's a NEMA 4 rated square opening, and we provide that on both ends of the units for our customers. And then you have, again, the common raceway and areas where you can drop down cabling to your racks. Some additional items I'd like to talk to you about with relationship to the construction of the unit is the precision, right? So when we talk about manufacturing, the design from SGI and the fact that it's manufactured off-site is enormously complicated, and it comes together in such precision, and I wanted to show you a few of those pieces. So what you have over here is evidence of two separate pieces that have come together and are joined together and bolted together in various sections to ensure the strength of the unit. So we've been talking about manufacturing. One of the differentiators of SGI is that we offer our customers expandability. So this unit we've talked about it supports 8 racks, right? And it was designed to actually support up to 40 racks. So what do I mean by that? We talked about the construction and how everything comes together, but one of the things we didn't talk about is this whole idea of expandability. These panels, as I mentioned before, these insulated panels, they can actually come off, right? And when you have this unit, and let's talk about that for a second. This particular unit is the head unit. And what I mean by head unit is that everything that is external to the IceCube Air unit enters at the head unit. The electrical system, the electrical wiring from the utility or from the customer-provided power source, the water that's required that we'll cover in cooling, and the networking all enters into the head unit. And all of that expands along with each one of the expansion units. So the head unit is again where all of the primary connections are, and each one of the expansion units can be connected as securely as you see this unit as itself, and becomes just a larger single unit. So the panels will come off upon construction. We talked about the modular pieces. More of those modular pieces will show up, and each one of those will be connected to this unit. So what you'll have is you'll have a unit just like this that is twice as big. So we'll have a head unit and one expansion unit. That's fantastic for a customer that wants to expand over time. They don't have to buy all of their racks at once. So this one has 8 racks, as I mentioned. Sometime in the future, as you can see, there's a lot of concrete here that was prepped for this particular site. There's going to be another module, and they'll expand out to 8 racks. And then sometime later, when they fill those 8 racks up, they'll expand out to, 24 racks, or 16 racks, 24 racks, 32, and up to 40. So all of the power, water, and networking that enters the head unit all connects through, like, for example, the cable raceway that we looked at. The cable raceway actually flows all the way through, and the hot and cold aisles, or the front and the back of the rack, is seamless throughout the head unit to whatever amount of expansion units. So it becomes one seamless unit after each one of the expansion units is attached. So now we're going to talk about electrical and the electrical system in the IceCube Modular Air Data Center. So what you see here is the electrical coming in from the customer-provided power source, we'll call it that. And the electrical actually enters in at the top of the unit. For this particular unit, you can enter at the top or the bottom, but this one actually enters at the top. And I'm going to open the primary door to the electrical panels. So what we have in here is the primary breaker for this particular design. I want to remind those that are watching this that this was a design-to-order build. So the electrical panel is really a universal area for SGI and SGI designs. This particular customer, this is actually a 1600 amp digital breaker that is the main breaker for this unit. So you can see that there's plenty of room here vertically to add a number of other panels, a number of other electrical disconnects, we'll call them. You see here that we have the A and the B bus bar. So when we go inside, we'll talk about bus bars a little bit, and you'll see how the power from this particular switch actually goes in and provides an A and a B redundancy for our customers. So again, you have the primary power that comes in, and I'm actually going to open up this panel so you can get a little bit better view of it. Okay. So you have the primary power that comes in from the top into this main disconnect or main breaker. So this main breaker actually feeds, as I mentioned, the 2 primary disconnects for the bus bars that are feeding the racks in an A and a B fashion. So this customer has a single source of power. Again, if they wanted redundant power, they would have two disconnects here. 2 separate disconnects and something we call an ATS, but I won't go into that at this point. So you have a single primary disconnect, and you have the 2 disconnects for each one of the bus bars. So as I mentioned, this is actually a universal platform for SGI designs. You can have a single or dual disconnect, and you can have multiple of these secondary breakers for each bus bar. You can see that there's actually room on this particular panel for additional breakers for the expansion units. So as we expand this unit out, we'll add additional breakers for the bus bars or the server rack power source to this panel. So everything will be in this particular panel from here till from here to the rest of the expansion units. Down here, what you see, in case you were wondering, are just a number of breakers for lights and for fans. Everything in the unit is certified and approved, so you have various fan on-off switches here and lighting. That's pretty much what that is. And so all in all, you have, again, a platform for us. We have our small, medium, and large designs, as we mentioned, and each one of them has a specific number of breakers and disconnects. But again, our customers can offer just about anything, anything they can really pretty much think about within the space that we have here. And if we need more space, well, based on the modularity we talked about, cutting things at certain sizes and shapes in the manufacturing process, we can simply make this area bigger. This was designed specifically for a customer, as I've mentioned several times. This is all the room that we needed for this particular amount of electricity. And from that, we are going to talk about what you also see here, the monitoring pieces, in just a second. So here we are back inside the unit, and when we're talking about electrical, SGI really affords the customer almost limitless choices in the types of power that they can have enter the unit. This particular unit has 2 bus bars, dual bus bars, and in the data center terminology, it's in an A and a B fashion. So we actually have 2 sources of power coming into this unit. And as you can see, the bus bar offers the customer what this is actually technically called is a bus plug, offers them several different types of configurations and what we call bus drops or cable drops down to PDUs or power strips in a rack. So the busway that SGI offers it comes in several configurations. Our standard units are pretty straightforward. They come in all the standard voltages, amperages, and hertz. And we're able to when our design to order element of our business, we're able to provide, like I said, almost limitless types of power. We can even hardwire directly from the electrical panel that we already talked about. So again, this particular unit offers, you see the dual bus bars with an A and a B fashion, and what that really results in is redundancy. So that's one of the key components of the system electrically, is offering our customers redundancy, right? A and a B, or dual feeds to servers and dual feeds to racks, which allows a customer to run dual feeds or redundancy all the way back to the utility if they should choose to do that. So all the things you find in a data center electrically, you find in this IceCube Air modular data center. You have the electrical panel. We talked about that. You have the breaker systems. You have a number of different breakers. We talked about expandability. You saw how those breakers were able to be added over time as the unit expands. We talked a little bit about expandability. And once we get inside, we're talking about how the electrical actually meets the racks. So the most important thing electrically is to understand is that SGI has a standard way of doing installation of the bus bars or hardwiring, and we offer our customers the ability to really do limitless, almost anything they want to do electrically. So now we're going to talk about monitoring controls. Probably the most important piece of this entire unit is how we deal with the outside air coming into the unit and all the things we're going to talk about in cooling. But all of that couldn't happen, or none of that could happen really, unless we had a very, very robust monitoring control system. So what SGI offers is, and this is a custom design unit, as I've mentioned. This is actually a monitoring controls touchscreen. It's the primary touchscreen for the monitoring control system. And what you see down here are a couple of power meters that offer you the A and the B power information in very great detail. So what you're not seeing here is what SGI offers as far as the UI for the monitoring system. Right, so SGI offers a very detailed, user-friendly, remote-capable UI that offers the customer the ability to know just about everything there is to know about this unit, electrically, mechanically, and in every way possible, outside temperature, inside temperature, what's going on with the servers, etc. What you have is a modular monitoring control system within a modular unit. And I'm actually going to pull this open and let you see what those components are all about. So when we go inside, I'm actually going to show you the brains of the monitoring control unit and the modularity and expandability. But what you see here is, again, the back of the monitor, and this actually is a battery UPS system for the monitoring control system. And we also utilize this battery, this UPS system for fire suppression. It's not installed in this particular unit, but if it was installed, we would use this to battery back the monitoring control system, the fire suppression and fire detection system, so that a customer would know, even if you lost 100% power to this unit, the customer would know exactly what's going on, whether they're here on site or anywhere else remotely. And that's the idea of being able to back the monitoring, provide UPS for the monitoring and control system. So now we're inside the unit and we're talking about monitoring and control systems. So I'm going to talk to you. I opened this door up to show you the modularity of the monitoring control system. And we're going to talk about the monitoring control system and a little bit about all the things that are connected to the monitoring control system. So for the average person, what I'll basically say is that this is actually a PC. So we run a PC that is our monitoring control system, and it's modular, and you can add various cards as you need to connect various sensors. And there are a ton of sensors in this unit. There's air temperature sensors, there's water leak detection sensors, there's sniffing sensors for the fire suppression or the VESTA system. So this PC is actually connected through a Cat5 RJ45 Cat5 Cat6 cable. And what this allows our customers to do is to connect this system and all the monitoring that it provides and all the controls that it provides to their existing building management system, or to connect to it remotely through the internet from anywhere. So I'm going to close this for a second. See, does that? So we're going to talk a little bit about all the things of the sensors that are connected to the monitoring control system. You have typical in a data center, you have an EPO button which shuts off everything in the entire unit. So that's actually connected to the monitoring control system as well. You have the VESTA system, which is the fire detection system. These sniffers are technically sensors for smoke in the unit. We talked about that throughout this unit there are temperature and humidity sensors placed strategically all over. What you have down below is actually leak detection, just in case. Throughout the unit we have strategically placed leak detection. So what we're going to do now is talk to you about the cooling system and go and show you some key points within the cooling system and how they work, and talk about how the entire system actually cools the inside, cools the servers, as we talked about before. So we're going to open up one of the doors, or two of the doors. Okay, so good. So what we're doing now is removing one of the evaporative sections, and I mentioned that it's a 4-stage evaporative media system, so we have 4 different sizes. And the sizes are some of the SGI special sauce. The size of it determines how much actual cooling that we can provide. So we're able to provide 4 different sizes of evaporative media, and I'll talk about the filters here shortly that you're seeing now. So each one of the evaporative sections is a different size, which affords us the ability to be able to modulate and or control the rate of cooling inside the unit. So we're not just using a single blanket of evaporative media and running outside air through it. There's actually a lot of science into the size and what's inside the unit, which we'll talk about a little bit, the size and shape and the type of evaporative media. Ready? Yeah. So each one of the evaporative media section has an area for a filter. This white filter that you see is a standard, what we call MERV5 filter, and there's enough space and depth in here for each one of the sections to be able to provide up to a MERV16 or a HEPA filter. So depending on where you deploy on the planet, we will work with the customer, SGI will work with the customer to determine the right kind of filtration that they'll need for the outside air, depending on the contaminants and or smoke or chemicals or whatever it is. So again, the filtration is extremely important, and what we're going to do is have you pull one of these out and show you what's behind here, which is the evaporative media section. So go ahead and pull it out here. So there you go. Thank you very much. So the filter's actually removed. You see the evaporative media section. It's a fiberglass media. We recommend that it gets replaced once a year. The filters we recommend it get replaced quarterly. Inside this unit is actually multiple multiple sections of this fiberglass media. I'm not going to go into detail of the size and shape because that's some of our special sauce. But you can see from the top here, there's an entry point where the water comes in. And we're going to talk a little bit more detail in the water when we shift over and do a little bit more close-up on the entry of the water. But the ultimate, for this particular video, is just to talk about the various elements of the construction of the unit. So we have the evaporative media system. You have the filters that come in and out. You saw how simple that was. The evaporative media actually pops out of the top. This is a lightweight aluminum section. Again, everything in this unit is high-grade aluminum and robust. So each one of the sections comes out. It can be replaced as a whole unit or when you're doing maintenance or recurring maintenance, even critical maintenance, popped out and replaced. And that can be done on site. So each one of the evaporative media sections has a quick disconnect for the water. You can see that's just simple water hose. And it connects and disconnects and makes for easy removal during maintenance. What you also see up here on this side, these little blue items over here, are actually solenoids. Each one of those, again, is controlled. You see those gray wires? Those are controlled by the monitoring control system that tells exactly how much water to add to each one of the sections. So we talked about the sections and the size of the sections and and the fact that it allows us to control the rate of cooling. You see various other things. You see a master control valve here for each one of the sections that is a manual shutoff, just in case one of the solenoid fails. Again, that's for redundancy. And so we're going to talk about a number of other items in here in this particular section. It's really important to stop and kind of take a look at what's inside here and talk about that in relationship to cooling. So behind the evaporative media section, we have an actual DX coil. So in environments where the temperature and humidity are at such a level that evaporative media and outside air and the water that we've talked about isn't able to cool or provide the servers the appropriate inlet temperature or the cold aisle temperature, we offer the customer the ability to add an additional DX coil and or chilled water coil. So the reason we offer both of those is because depending on where you deploy in the world, the customer may have an existing chilled water system. So a customer could easily add an ice cube air unit, use outside air for a majority of the time, and we can actually define for the customer the number of hours a year that they would use that outside air, depending on where they were in the world. But we offer that ability, and they could connect the DX coil, the chill water coil, right to their existing chiller system. Right, so the amount, and that would become a supplemental cooling system. We've had customers that would want to use a DX or chill water coil for emergency. Let's say you're out in the middle of the desert and there's a sandstorm and you're concerned, so you shut down the louvers on the outside that are taking the outside air into the unit. You shut those down 100%, and then you recirculate the air through the system that you see above me, the louvers and the louver motor and the louvers here. You can actually do a full recirculation. We already do it with the hot air. It's designed to do that, as I mentioned. The server's heated air, we bring that back over the top for cold climates. And also to be able to keep this area at a certain temperature as well, but also to keep the servers at a certain temperature. But by adding the DX coil and or the chill water coil, it offers the customer the ability to have supplemental cooling and or emergency cooling. That's an option. So it's completely designed to be running, as we mentioned, fully on outside air and the recirculation as we talked about. But the option is here for those kinds of customers. So the water that flows into each one of the evaporative media section actually flows through, it's a single pass-through system, and it flows from top to bottom into this drain pan. And the drain pan is here, just in case. A properly tuned evaporative media system, when it's properly tuned, the monitoring control system, through all the different algorithms that we have in the monitoring control system, water should actually not even reach the drain pan. The drain pan is more for emergency or for, it's more for just in case. So again, the water flows from the top to the bottom, and it should evaporate, right? That's why we call it an evaporative media system. Should evaporate by the time it reaches the bottom. If in the case it doesn't, we have a drain pan, and we'll talk in a second about the drain. So we're back on the outside, and I just want to mention real quick the water entry, which it's a story in itself. So what you see here down below, the red item there, is actually the entry of the water that cools the entire modular data center. It's a standard garden hose size connection or a 3/4 inch connection that cools this entire server load that is in this particular This particular unit runs about 700 kilowatts of IT compute power, all cooled by this simple connection here. What you have here below is the drain. So that's a 2-inch pipe that you would connect to a drain system. So there's actually no drain going to be put on this particular unit. They're going to let the water flow right out into the ground. There's very little water that's actually used in this particular climate that we're at, so there's no concern of water pooling, etc. There's no chilled water in this particular unit. So the Ice Cube Air unit, this one as an example, 700 kilowatts, is actually cooled by the source of standard tap water.